Good afternoon and welcome back to Good Things Live, a little show that we've created to bring you some joy and to remind you that there are still good things happening in South Africa and the world. Guys, I know it's tough. It's been 100 days of lockdown. We are all quite frustrated. Most of us are frustrated. It's tough for many of us who are no longer earning salaries or earning half salaries, and we're all there's almost like a fear of the uncertainty, and it's tough, and that's okay. We can say those things out loud. The news, mainstream media, is hard to read, and the numbers are going up. And there's discussions of changing the lockdown again, and it's all that uncertainty that can feel incredibly overwhelming and quite traumatic. And I want you to know, first and foremost, that it's okay not to be okay. If you're not feeling great, if you are feeling overwhelmed, then switch off from all that noise and make sure you're looking after yourself, your mental wellness, and practice self-care. Do things that'll make you feel better in this space. And that's exactly why we've created the show, is that we want to just bring you 30 minutes of some feel-good factor, of something that isn't constantly about COVID-19 or what is going on in the world, because we know that's happening. But maybe we just need a break from it, a very short break. And thanks to Good Things Guy, we have a lot of stories that we can talk about. There's a restaurant in Pretoria, the Mosaic at the Orient, who has just it's become one of the top 100 restaurants in the world, the only restaurant in Africa that has made that list. We've got Vusi Thembekwayo, who has who's taken over this viral trend. He's got a video that went viral where he's calling out what government should be doing during this time. And today I'm quite excited because I've got a very good friend of mine that I've invited to join me on the show. Riaan Manser is like the African version of Bear Grylls. He has cycled the circumference of Africa on a bicycle. He has kayaked from Africa to New York. He's done really, really crazy things. And he's really deep down inside just a really good guy. Riaan and I, craziest story, we met in the middle of Zanzibar while I was there for a wedding and he was there for a conference. And then I think we saw each other again in Tanzania almost when I was climbing Kilimanjaro and he was there doing charity work. And then we bumped into each other in London, and that was also just a crazy story. But in the years that I've known him, he's become one of my closest friends. And his story is quite crazy because he's super inspirational and he does really crazy expeditions. You can see in his background, it suits him perfectly. He's got maps and a telescope. He is the Bear Grylls of Africa. And I'm excited to have him on Good Things Live today.
Hey, cheers, Brent. Am I live?
You are live, Riaan. This is it. You are on air, and welcome to Good Things Live.
Thanks, man. Brent, listen, your description is awesome. I think when I have a telescope behind me, that's to make me look intelligent. People normally put books behind them. They want people to think that they read about everything. The thing is that when you ask people, what did you learn from that book or that book, they tell you they haven't got around to it. But I've seen a lot of things through this, so this makes me look intelligent. This map, Iceland, I know the place quite well.
Riaan, I have to ask, have you ever used that telescope, or is it really just a prop?
It's a real deal one. I got it actually for my 40th birthday. Can you believe? When things got real and I got expensive birthday presents still. But Brent, no, I've actually looked at a couple of red moons, which is pretty incredible. Most people would either tell you the Earth's going to end, or they're just going to tell you it's just an incredible thing to watch. I've probably been able to watch some things out on the ocean from far off. So no, an incredible piece of equipment I've actually used.
So, I mean, I opened up by saying you've done all these crazy expeditions and you've traveled the world twice over. You know Iceland. You have kayaked alone, self-isolation, by yourself in the middle of the ocean. But it was on your terms and you were doing things for you. And I guess self-isolating in the middle of the ocean is nothing like self-isolating in a house. How have you been coping during this lockdown?
Yes, Brent. you know, first of all, just think when everybody's been asking that, I've done a few chats like this, you know, and learned a lot about this technology. Firstly, just it's so in the chats, I get posed this question quite often, and you know what the thing is that comes naturally is to understand that there's people in worse places. I would just imagine, you know, I'm not even talking about South Africa. I'm talking about people in other countries in Africa, places that I've visited, that I've got other African friends, and it's not a pity party or pity story, but man, we've got it good, eh? To be isolated where I am and to have done the things that I have done, shucks, man, you're not going to hear 1 ounce of complaint. It's hell to be confined, but it could be worse. I'm just hoping that that logic and sanity prevail in this time, because man, we're just hearing from so many experts from all corners of Facebook, and that's what I'm only tired of. I'm not tired of being confined to the space to keep others safe.
So one of the things that I've found over the last 100 days is this new term, and you bring up social media and Facebook. There's a lot of people who have become experts in certain things that maybe they are not experts in. And I've got this new sentence that I'm using quite often when people ask me questions that I shouldn't be answering because I actually don't know. And that is, I don't have enough information to have an opinion. It's that simple.
Yeah. That's a wise person. What did a wise person also once say? You know, you only let people know how little you know when you start talking too much. So, you know, the whole thing is not to keep dead quiet, but if you don't know, you know, maybe hold back.
It's tough. The information overload can feel overwhelming. And you may not have heard it because you were in the waiting room, but I started off the show by saying, if you're feeling overwhelmed and this lockdown and the 100 days and the uncertainty and all those things are getting to you, you need to switch off. You need to get off social media. You need to get off the news, and you need to practice something that will work on your mental wellness and self-care. What would you suggest? I mean, I look at you as this adventurer, this world adventurer. How, in moments of stress, have you practiced self-care?
Brent, the one thing, just to come to where you were touching on, is probably the biggest element. We're concerned about people's physical health. And I mean, again, I don't have to be an expert on this, and neither does Brent, but we're all watching this social media space and seeing people mentally unravel. It's scary. I mean, people that I know well, people I don't really know that well, that I had ideas of, I'm seeing them unravel, and I'm realizing that all of us can now look around us and say that the mental state of many a person has gone, you know, it's almost as if some people can't be saved anymore, just where they are mentally. So I think for myself is that I've been lucky that my 20 years in this adventure space has given me a little bit of a foundation and a background. I haven't thought that it always was a gift or something that I was good at. But I've been in isolation, man, where I haven't had one person to talk to. I haven't had Netflix for company. I haven't had the chance to chat to Brent like this about anything, just what's on my heart, sometimes for months. So I've been gifted that. It has been okay for us. Pasti and I have been lucky. We've probably had about 500-600 arguments. No, 5 or 6 arguments. We haven't. It's been good for us, man. But Brent, you touch on that mental thing. I want to. One thing that was an example, and I will not mention a person's name. There's a guy that I admire for how he's decided to uproot, leave this world of a lot of opinions and sometimes a very heavy opinionated world behind, and to go forward with the dream that he had of being on a yacht. Now, when I've watched that guy's story, I have admiration. I think, wow, you've actually given it all up. People that are watching this show now, I'm telling you, they've thought about it. They've said, is it worth it for Brent to come to work 7 days a week, 9 to 10 o'clock at night, to slave away like this for financial gain? No, it's not. That's the answer. And I've admired this guy for giving up everything. But I find that his attachment to the social media space is probably something that's dragging him down and away from the dream that he had 3-4 years ago. My advice to people is starve yourself of something that you found a necessity. social media is not everything. Choose where you want to be. Hang out with the good things guy. Hang out with people that are more positive. If you want negativity, man, it's not easy to find it. So choose when you go into those spaces that share that the ideals that aren't yours.
I think that is vital in this time. Social media before pre-lockdown was all about showing off your fantastic life. So it was all about like, look at me on this holiday or doing this. And you're right, it's become a very negative space. It's people are easily triggered. Many people have their opinions, which they've turned into facts. And it's a scary, scary place. There's minefields everywhere. So I think that's vitally important, is to choose what you allow in.
True. I think the mental side, if you want to look after your mental side, listen, social media is not going to help you. Stick around good people. You know, age-old advice that used to say, hang out with the people that you would like to be. So it's sort of that analogy that people say, what type of person do you want? What type of person would I like to be? And my analogy always came down to is I'm still working very, very hard every day to be that person that my dog thinks I am. You know, as animal lovers, you know, it's something that sometimes just wakes me up to think, yes, I think I'm a good guy. I think I'm doing good things. I think I'm being generous. I think I'm open-minded. And then when my dog stares into my eyes for too long and just, I can see him pondering, that makes me.
Tell me, during this time, obviously we've all been, our lifestyles have changed and you are quite active. How have you been staying healthy and fit? You are a healthy, fit guy. So how did that come into play when you're sort of not able to climb into a kayak and I don't know, paddle for 3 months? Like, how have you been keeping fit?
It's been a gift, for me to be able to go on those journeys. It's just been super healthy. I think the one thing that I'm missing is doing the Cape Epic. It's a famous mountain bike race that you know quite well. I think you've covered a few people doing it. Something that I've done a few years in a row, and that I missed a heck of a lot. It really gets you healthy and in a state of mind that you can conquer anything, even at work. You know, a lot of people see my space and only think that I go on these adventures. What I do in between is vital as well. It's the business side of things. Brent, I wasn't one of them in my backyard. So no, please, I'm not going to take those accolades. I am not really a runner, but as soon as lockdown opened, after those, I think it was the 21 days, then we've been out. You know, my son's nearly 3 now. He loves to get out on his little push bike and we go running at the same time, or we go and push him. But man, I just feel sorry for people whose physical exercise drug is something like surfing or swimming, and then regulations that just make no sense stop them from doing it. We've been lucky. We've been getting out. My wife and my little son are super active, so getting me out more than normal.
Well, that's good to hear, because I don't want you to get lazy. We've got more expeditions that need to happen. Talking about that, okay, we'll get into that now. You talk about the business side. So you do a lot of talks. You have, I mean, you've written books. Have you been writing a secret book that we don't know about during this time?
Hey, man, had an incredible conversation this morning. You know, first in our trip York Sea, the row that we did, we got into a little rowing boat and we rowed from Africa. Just imagine this. So just get your little globe out or your little map out and just look at that route from Africa all the way to New York City in that little rowing boat. 6 months of isolation, only Fasti and I, to be able to do this world only in a little rowing boat. That story, Brent, is the most incredible, romantic, tough love message that could be written in a book. And this morning I was just chatting to a good friend of mine, Murray Williams, and I'm talking to him about how we're going to bring this to paper, you know, and we're very close. So yes, are we putting that story to paper? Of course. But my children's book is 99% done. The Around Africa on the Bicycle children's book, we should launch that, you know, in good time in October. An incredible, uplifting children's book for 9 to 12-year-olds that's going to teach them, but also inspire them to be explorers and adventurers like their dads and their moms.
I love that. I love the story about you cycling around Africa. The first time I met you, that's what we spoke about for, I think, 2 days in Zanzibar. You were telling me all the amazing stories of the different places in Africa and how in love you are with Africa. But you touched on your trip to New York. And I say your trip to New York like you climbed on a plane and you were there. But no, you and Vasti climbed on this canoe/kayak for 2 people, and you were on it for 6 months. And at some point, it's a story whenever I'm around a group of friends, not all of them, because maybe they've heard the story before. But when we had a couple of drinks and there's time to chat about people that I admire, I bring up the story of you and how you called me on a satellite phone in the middle of the ocean. You were in an absolute state, but you told me how the boat had been hit by a wave and how you'd been separated. Was that that was the New York one, right?
It was the New York one, Brent, man. I'm glad that you sounds like appreciated the phone call. Some people, you call them and then they put you on hold, when you're calling from the middle of the ocean. So thank you for appreciating the call. Man, everything in hindsight is always just a beautiful lesson. Hey, I can sit in front of children and I can talk to them how I ate bats and monkey and rats and as a necessity on my bicycle trip. When I got capsized when we got capsized and I got separated from the boat, it was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my 20 years of this business. And people in our space sometimes are seen in a different light. We maybe, I don't like being considered a adrenaline junkie. I'm absolutely not. I'm quite a level-headed guy. I have done daring things for sure. But me getting separated from that boat that day, Brent, it was a Tuesday morning. We were rowing in huge seas. The weather station said it was 11 to 13 meter swell. Now, you just go and take your school route, measure 13 meters outside, and you get an idea of how big the swell was. The waves were breaking now and then, and Vasti and I knew they were coming from the left-hand side, and now and then they were breaking. Not a rolling wave like you'd have on a beach, but just this thunderous little atomic bomb going off that would snap our boat in half. And the one wave lifted our boat up and threw it. And I only remember being smashed by the wave. I remember being rolled underwater and then, sure, man, popping out with miraculously this anchor rope or this rope that we had attached to our boat in my left hand. I didn't know how that had happened, but I was attached to the boat 6 meters away with the boat upside down still. And this is 2,300 kilometers from any land. So you can imagine, dead center, like literally the middle of nowhere or the Atlantic Ocean. And I was wondering, where's Vasti? I mean, where is she? She sits behind me. I couldn't see what had happened to her. I'm concerned, but I'm just hoping that she's near the boat. And this boat shook, and I can remember just shaking so ferociously in the foam, and then tipped back up after about maybe 10 seconds. Vasti thinks it was about 10 seconds. She was underwater. There I see her sitting still in her rowing seat. She hasn't gone anywhere. I'm surprised how she's just held for dear life. I look at her, and here's the humorous side of it. We're both in shock. I'm staring at her, and I'm waiting for her to make the first interaction. I'm in water that she doesn't know what's going to happen or how I'm going to get back to the boat. She doesn't know the ropes in my hand. She looks at me, she looks behind me, and then her first words are to me, and some people have heard the story, when you meet Vasti, ask her what her first words to me were, because they were this. She points behind my left shoulder and she says, "Behind you, go get the olive oil. It's behind you." She doesn't ask me how I am. I mean, that shocked me a little bit. But your brain, 2 days later, we just realized actually what had happened to us. I could have definitely died. I could have been, I wouldn't be here today doing this interview with you.
I know. And I remember the phone call. I got you in the midst of the realization. So it was like, and you phoned me because we had to do it at a certain time to be on a show. You phoned me and it was midnight and you were looking at a moon and you were so appreciative for life. It was actually a beautiful phone call.
And then the flying fish was still hitting me, I think.
Yes.
I had my hoodie on and the flying fish were hitting me, and then I think I was being that prima donna telling you, let's get this interview done because I can't sit with the flying fish anymore.
So, I mean, during lockdown, it's also been a conversation about relationships. and how a lot of people, they've never been forced to be in a space with their partner for such a long time. And one of the things that you've also told me about is the big fight that you had with Fasti. I think it's actually it's part of the story where you guys were stuck. I mean, in a space of like 2 meters where you didn't speak to each other for what, 2 days?
Yeah, man, listen, Fasti and I have been very, very close. 14 years up to that time, 14 and a half years we'd been together. And sure, man, we do everything. We go everywhere together. We do everything we did together as a couple, everywhere we went. You know, it's like you and Andrew could hang out, but then sometimes you also know that you need space. And
yeah,
we didn't.
You're not going to get that space on a boat.
Absolutely not. And we weren't ready for this. And Brent, we went to a very dark place. You know, it's sometimes I always feel uncomfortable when I talk about it, but I try to be brave when I tell people it was a dark space, and people sitting listening again to this, my story about a dark place in a relationship. I know that when they hearing this, they're thinking about a space they've been in their own. No relationship is perfect, no matter how it looks from outside. No relationship. And man, that's what is going to make the book amazing. You're going to see how we went to the dark space. It was probably honest space as well, but horrible and ugly for us. And we came out of that, fortunately. The miracle was, Brent, Fasti and I actually said we weren't talking to each other for that 2.5 days. And then eventually we started chatting. And there was a boat that was near us. It was about a few 40, 50 miles away from us. And it was a boat we couldn't find out or speak to them yet. But I said to Fasti, do you want to get off the boat? He said, maybe she'll get off the boat. And we were in such a space that I just wanted to get Fasti off the boat, and she just wanted to get off herself. And as the boat came closer, I could speak to them on the radio. And it was a Spanish captain, and he was heading for all places on the planet for Durban, South Africa. Sure. And, yeah, shocking. Hey, and then Fasti and I weren't talking, and we just kept quiet. And now we obviously know what's going on. She said she doesn't want to be on this boat with me, doesn't want to see me again. I don't want to see her again. And we just started speaking, and it was quietness. And I just said to her, do you want to get on this boat? And we could see it in the distance now. And then she just softly also just said, no, she doesn't. And 2 things I believe were at play there. Fasti, she's tough. She's committed to the job she set herself, and that's to row to New York. And secondly, she cared for me more than the argument had led me to believe. So 2 things. And yeah, when the ship came past us, they just wanted to see if we were okay. We waved, they hooted, went by, and we carried on.
I love that. And I think that's vitally important as well. There's a lot of couples that might need to hear that right now, that the love for each other is more important than the argument. So thank you. I need to ask now, because you did the expedition I think it was last year with DSTV, and it was fantastic and all those things. And December's coming up, but we're self-isolating, and I don't know if we're planning things. Are you planning anything? Do I need to know anything?
Yeah, let's tell you guys, man. We'll share. So it's just a skeleton of what we do. We'll share that. I mean, my story with Fana Fikile was a special one. You know, Fana and I have probably walked a walk that many people on this planet need to. Brent, we sit in a difficult time with polarization, polarizing especially race groups, polarizing people that sit on one side of the fence. And hell's bells, it's a serious conversation, you know. Fana Fikile and I were cornered in that boat that showed on MultiChoice and on DSTV. And man, we didn't like each other many times. And I'm sure in his mind, he also thought, you know, this is what he presumed about me as a white guy, an Afrikaans guy, you know, things that he presumed he had been by others were probably real. And Fana had to work through that, and exactly the same for my side. I had to work through mine, because as much as you say you've got black friends or you've got white friends, you didn't live in a space for nearly 3 months confined to shoulder with them. So I'm sorry I elaborate on that, the odyssey with Fana, but you know, that was something that helped me. It's helped me to disengage from the polarization of what we see now on TV stations and people's opinions on social media. I always go back to my interaction with Fana and that learnings that I had with him. That story was incredible, and it took us across the Atlantic for the 3rd time. What are we doing in December? Man, I've got a great relationship with a company in Cape Town called Elsie. They're a company that flies many of the delegations, the scientists, to the Antarctic continent. They fly them from November to about mid-February. Antarctica, we talk about it frivolously, man. We talk about saving the planet, and we talk about this piece of ice, you know, that's the coldest and driest piece of earth on the planet. And last year, or the beginning of this year, Fasti and I, my wife, had the chance to actually go and to actually put our foot on Antarctic soil and to see this place. The Odyssey number 2 is in Antarctica. We're going to find somebody on the planet, somebody that wants to do an expedition with me, once in a lifetime trip to the South Pole. Can you imagine? We had 15,000 entries to row across an ocean with me. Imagine how many people in the world would make it their bucket list item to go to the South Pole. That's what we hope to do.
Me. But I believe that it's nepotism, and I'm not allowed to enter again because I'm your friend. It's the worst.
I must tell you, you caused consternation in our office. You know, there's probably you and maybe a dozen people that I know well, and they're hey man, they're good-hearted people like you that I would take any chance. You would be able to win it. But listen, people would shoot me down for choosing my buddies.
No, I know that already. But I am going to enter so that my name will just be there as a reminder that you promised me that we were going to swim around Zanzibar one day. It has to happen.
And you know what? Listen, for the people watching now, I want to know from people what their ideas about swimming around Zanzibar. I know a guy quite well, who I admire so much, Terence Barkin is a South African swimmer that has done so much, and also just an advocate for people that are deaf in South Africa and probably globally. This guy probably would be our mentor, and I haven't pitched it to him, so he's probably going to watch this, and he doesn't know that I need to convince him to be mine and your coach to get us around Zanzibar. Let's do it. Let's not forget about it. I haven't really. Personally, I haven't forgotten about it. We're still going to do it.
It's always here, and we partner with someone who we can do something really charitable for them as well. So we bring in that news factor as well. Riaan, I really want to thank you for joining me today. I know it's been a crazy day for you. You were running around, but I gave both of us a really good opportunity to dress up on a Monday. It's the only time. It's the only time I put a jacket on.
No, lovely. Listen, when I was getting ready now, and I was saying to Fasti, please just chat to the producers and, just calm them down. I do things like this, but normally I'm like an hour before ready. I have my 4th cup of coffee before we start chatting. And this time I was running in, getting into my Sunday best. And so I apologize. But man, I love chatting to you, Brent. Thank you for, also just doing good stuff. This clutter that we have of depressing stuff needs the breakthrough. It's like sort of a hot knife through butter, and you're doing that, man. And we always chat about real life. We don't just chat about the gorilla beating his chest doing adventures. Thank you for allowing me the space also to chat.
Thank you so much. If people want to follow you, if they want to follow the story that is coming, this Odyssey 2, obviously you dropped it right here, so we're going to have to wait till it actually gets launched. But if they want to follow you and all the good things that you're doing, where is the best place to go?
Brent, let's just use spaces like Facebook and online. Facebook is a lovely medium. It's just incredible that it allows people to share information. I think one thing that I'd like to leave with people, and this is something I'll launch on your channel too, is that we want to take a few matrics from any school in South Africa to Antarctica this December. It will be the first week of December. We want to take a couple of matrics, probably a handful, 5, 6 of them. We're trying to find matrics that have got a passion for Antarctica and believe that it needs protecting. Now, I don't know where it's going to end or where it's going to begin, but if people want to engage with us, tell us if you know a kid that's in matric. I mean, imagine being in matric right now, Brent. Imagine our normal matric was a year that we sailed through being the big shots in the school, and we could have our matric dance and everything went hunky-dory. Matrics this year have had none of that, nothing. They haven't had it. It was taken away from them. I'm going to take a few matrics to Antarctica at the end of this year for a short expedition. I just want to find out which 5 matrics I need to take. Maybe your platform is the one to find them.
Well, we're going to leave it there. And if people do want to find out more information, you just head over to Riaan Manser on Facebook. He's also got a Twitter, and he's got his own website, and his website details are there. So if you want to send him an email with an expedition idea, I'm sure he'll gladly read it and write back.
Sure.
It's that simple. He's very connected and always online. So if you want to speak to a great adventurer, then that is it. Riaan, thank you again for being on the show today. And I just want to say to all the viewers, guys, it is tough and it is hard and it is overwhelming. But we are going to get through this together. It is going to be okay. I know that sounds cliche, but as long as we focus on the end goal, there is an end goal. Thank you. Wishing you guys only good things. And we're out.
Thank you, Dad.
How was it?
And you don't have to worry, we're not rude. Next time I'll just invite you